I just want to welcome everybody to join us tonight, which is the NLP and Enneagram in organizations. And we're going to present it from an HR and OD perspective primarily. And so we hope that you guys will be able to see the relationship of what we do in terms of NLP and Enneagram in organization. And then we can have what we call interesting conversation right after this. Yeah. Oh, before that, just want to give you guys a little bit of heads up of our background for those of you who don't know us. Let me do the reverse. I'll introduce Seok right now. Seok,
Okay.
You've been an NLP master practitioner for how many years?
13 years.
13 years, man. Shit, you are old.
I am.
But you still look like a kid to me. Okay, so
thank you.
And she has been also a co-developer of neuro-linguistic Enneagram. This is a kind of like a baby for us. It's a baby that took almost about 20 years to bring into fruition. Is the combination of NLP and Enneagram, which we might be able to expand a little bit more on. So it's also an IEA accredited professional. IEA is International Enneagram Association. This accreditation is not easy to get. You need to be able to fulfill quite a stringent piece of fulfillment in order to get it. And she's also an RMC management consultant. She is a typical Singaporean. She wants to make sure that she has got double confirmation. So she has ICF coach certification and also ICI life coach certification. Okay, and so on and so on and so off. Lamesh, managed change practitioner, and then she has got a degree in business administration. And you did a postgrad program, is it?
Yes, because I am a finance major. I never studied HR, but I've been into HR since my first job, so I thought I better study something about HR.
Okay.
Got in by accident, you see.
Got in by accident. Okay.
Shall I have the privilege to introduce you? Okay.
Yeah.
So Barney basically is, of course, NLP master trainer, and he is the one who founded My Transformation for the last 26 years. He is a coach master trainer as well. And so he's now serving the president of ICI chapter for Singapore, and also a member of NLP Elder Group, which is a very prestigious group of, global NLP professionals. And he's also the chairman of SUSS Life Coach and Grad Deep program right now. So he's overseeing some of the coaching curriculum done by SUSS. And he's also a developer of the multi-intelligence NLP and a recipient of 2017 Global Training and Development Leadership Award, which he went to India, right, to actually collect that. Yeah. And of course, he recently have this doctorate in adult development and professional coaching.
Okay, so let's move on. So I'll let you introduce what the Enneagram is.
So Enneagram is a typology. So this is the modern Enneagram that we currently use that is infused with psychology in the 1970s. So it was developed in the 1970s. And it talks about 9 interconnected personality types, with each type having its own set of psychological pattern, thinking, feeling, and action or behavioral patterns within us. So it kind of like nicely sums up the ego, so-called. Yeah. But as human beings, of course, we are more than just our type. But this is a very good starting point to actually understand ourselves.
Yeah. And if I were to add to it, is I think that what happens is that most of the other typologies that's available, and this is one of the areas that one area of my fascination, which is to try to figure out how people think and how to predict their behaviors and so on and so forth. I have that since young, but this one I felt that it has the ability to give us information that typically we will not be able to see or understand in our day-to-day conversation with people, because it talks about the hidden side of people's psyche. To sum it up, it's actually talking about understanding people's core fears and their core desires that drives everything that they do. And I think that this typology is the only typology that I know of. I've been through a lot to say that it actually helps us to be able to really get to the place where it really matters.
Yes, that's true. And one thing I love about it is it actually describes how your full potential looks like. which a lot of other types say that, oh, you can be better, you know, but they never describe the better, how the better version looks like. But this one really does.
Yeah. So it's kind of create a sense of like there's almost like a vertical side of development for all of us. Okay, so let me do a quick one. NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, is a psychological approach that if I were to kind of detail it a little bit more, it's an applied psychological approach that turns human excellence into strategic thinking, feeling, and action through modeling. So it's quite a mouthful, but basically we look at people who are good at what they do, and we use primarily psychology to turn our observation of them into what we call strategic patterns in thinking, feeling, and action, so that people can accelerate their results, their performance. So that's what NLP is. NLP started in 1969 to 72. So it has got about 40 to 50 years history by now. Okay. So let's talk about some of the applications in organization. So here we're talking about the Enneagram, and here I guess you can talk about it in a very technical way, and you feel free to weave in some of your own personal stories. So take it away.
Okay. I think from an application standpoint, when it comes to Enneagram, I've been using Enneagram for the last 12 years and profile over 1,000 people. So I use it in these 4 areas, mainly in leadership development, which is the core of my work. So I work with leaders most of my time. And Enneagram is a very useful tool to work with leaders because leaders impact others. I think this is the most fundamental awareness that leaders should have nowadays. And leaders most of the leaders, basically, they are smart, and that's why they actually step into leadership roles. But therefore, when you are smart or intelligent, what will be useful is awareness or mindfulness of how you are impacting or how you are triggering or how you're motivating other people in the team and in your organization. So when I pull all the leaders' profile together, and there I have the organization culture. And this is a very interesting thing because our natural tendencies will drive us to focus on different areas. And so if you have the leaders' profile and put together, you kind of like able to see how the leadership patterns will match the core values and the vision, mission, and the culture on the plaque, on the wall. And then that's where we can, as a consultant myself, I am able to design or advise on what are some of the interventions that we can do to enhance the culture, enhance the leadership quality as well. I also do quite a bit of work on team dynamic and team performance using Enneagram. So as a team, many times we talk about, when people come together, there's politics. And politics kind of get out of hand sometimes because of the lack of understanding in my field. Because as long as you have people working together, I think there will be dynamic going on. And the politics gets out of hand when, there is a lack of alignment or understanding of why you are doing this to me or others. And that's how, gossips and all that started. So Enneagram is a fantastic tool to show appreciation or a light or understanding because we start to see why people do what they do in a nutshell. Yeah. So team coaching, team performance, you can use Enneagram in many ways. And of course, last but not least is coaching, individual coaching and leadership coaching. So it is in the coaching conversations, that's when you have very intimate kind of exploration or reflection that individuals or leaders can bring to the table. And that is when they kind of start to realize that, this is actually not what I want versus, and yet this is what I do. So that's when it's very revealing in that sense.
Yeah. And maybe I'm just running too far ahead of the conversation, but I remember one of the many examples of this, but I remember one organization whereby we start to profile 14 of their leaders, what you just said earlier on, that is at a HQ level, and then we begin to see where they are in their spectrum of different types. And what we found out was many of the people are in the action space, which is what we call the body types, and many of them are in the thinking space. They are in the technology field. And so they're very successful in taking ideas and new concepts and creating implements and machines and stuff like that, and they launch it out, right? And their major complaint right now, major problem that they have is customer service. So
Yes.
they got
And we wonder why.
a very thin area in the heart space, the people relationship side of things.
Yes.
How do you actually reduce the customer complaints or being able to respond to customers?
Yes.
To be able to kind of anticipate what they want. So the model itself, when it's done correctly, it does gives us on the macro level, that's what you get. The benefits are actually much more punchy when it comes to individual level, especially at the leadership level, and team level. But it does give us a sensing of what the organizational culture might be like.
Yes.
In that perspective.
And this is one way to bring data into culture.
Yeah, just to give some kind of data so that people become more aware.
Yes.
From this, we move to a conversation, then strategies can come forth from there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about NLP. So the application of NLP, right? Primarily, I'm talking from my own experience, right? We are called to go to the organization. A lot of time, the thing that we are known for, they are asked for us are actually the idea about communication and influencing people. So communication would mean that we spend quite a bit of time understanding. After all, the middle name of NLP is linguistics, right? So we study language patterns. And behind the language pattern, it reveals a certain assumption that people make or certain emphasis on certain values and beliefs, right? And we do it through a language analysis. So we can actually ask questions and target our conversation much more in strategic areas based on what the people are saying. Now, influencing people has got this idea about the fact that all people have got this, what I often say, blue buttons or red buttons. That means they have a certain preference. And if you know those buttons, then you are able to say, how can I push those buttons that would get a more favorable response and avoid those red ones, unless the red ones are the ones that they need to deal with. You need to press those to trigger certain response so they can see themselves a bit more clearly. So red buttons are very useful. But in terms of rapport relationship, you want to avoid them. But you can't avoid them if you don't know what they are. That's the thing is, we don't go around intentionally pushing people's red button. We actually more like we walk into a we're not aware that we are in the minefield. We are in a minefield, but you step on the mine. You know what I'm saying? And then your legs blow off and so on. Yeah. So raising performance is I think the area that NLP really champion, because it talks about how people can become more aware of their own personal strategies. They become more aware of, in psychology, we call it meta cognition. That means you become aware of your own thought patterns, your emotion, your own behaviors. You become aware of how those things create problems and how those things and also how those things create what we call successes or effective performances. So just because we know where to place the awareness, then it means that you can actually cut down or stop those things that are not producing results and become more strategic in terms of how you actually use your capabilities, and you can rely on those capabilities to do certain things and repeat them in that sense. Yeah, so that's the part on the NLP portion in terms of modeling excellence, which becomes the forte of NLP, which is about raising personal performance. And last but not least, I just want to touch a little bit more on modeling. Modeling goes into looking at successful people in an organization, how they go about achieving success. So in the past, the people say that less than 10% of an organization. It's very true in sales that less than 10% of the organization, right, actually brings in almost 80% of the revenue. And so the logic is very simple. You can study this 10% and find out how they drive themselves, what is their strategy, and we teach it to the rest of the people, right? We can safely say we will immediately, within a short period of time, raise about 15 to 20% of the overall company's performance without even trying very hard, because these are by the people, for the people in their context. So modeling becomes a very useful tool in that sense. And also for succession planning and so on and so forth.
It still holds true today. It's like, that's why there are so many leaders where they actually share their best practices. Like every day they wake up at certain routine, there's the certain discipline that they drive through.
Yeah. And then I just want to share one thing that bugs me when I go to work, when they say, oh, this leader has got charisma. There's this mystical thing around him. He's born like that, or some karmic some I don't know, planetary alignment, born on the right date or whatever. So NLP kind of moved into a space whereby how do we actually turn that ability into steps and structures that we can actually understand and use. So that I've done quite a number of projects around those areas. And then the other one is raising self-awareness and developing growth mindset. So this is the part where I would say that maybe 80% of the training that they would either ask me to do, or they imply that this is something that they want me to look at to shift the mindset of the people. So that's where we talk about creating more self-awareness of their own thoughts, their own feelings, their own action, especially their own inner thoughts. So what are some of the assumptions that we have, presuppositions there, yeah? And then to help them to change or transform it so that they can actually get better results in a sense. Or at the very least, right, they become to be aware and they can say now in a given situation where typically they have a knee-jerk reaction, they're able to hold themselves back and act differently. Essentially, you can't create change without awareness. First, awareness. Then you talk about knowledge. Then you talk about change in a sense. So that's kind of the nutshell of what NLP does, the application of NLP.